Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Well, Donald Trump has done an about face when it comes down to Greenland, but never trust Donald Trump. Just because he is backing off, it doesn't mean he's really doing it. Because we've seen Donald Trump deny things and then move forward to it, i.e., Project 2025. On the campaign trail, he claimed he knew nothing about it, but he's actually been implementing it since he's been in office. And now they're on to Project 2026. So I see this as no different. He's on the surface telling everybody, he's backing off and not going to go after Greenland, but I would not be surprised a week or even months from now, he actually goes in there with the military. You cannot believe, nor can you trust anything Donald Trump says. And we already know this, and it seems like the rest of the people, they're just kind of slow. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you.
The big news out of Davos today, that major gathering of world leaders, President Trump landing on Air Force One, then stunning the crowd with a 90-minute address. It was supposed to be about U.S. housing policy, but it turned into a long rebuttal to other world leaders. He told Canada the country, quote, lives because of us. Told the crowd, quote, you'd all be speaking German if not for America. And he mocked Emmanuel Macron of France for wearing sunglasses indoors. And yet late today, the president announced what he said was a breakthrough on U.S. control of Greenland. So let's get right to senior White House correspondent Ed O'Keefe, who is traveling with the president. Ed, what a day. Good evening to you.
That's one way to put it, Tony. The president's decision to talk more with NATO about the future of Greenland came as he backed off threats of using military force or new tariffs to get what he wants. But his fresh attacks on Europe angered close allies. As the president helicoptered into this swanky Swiss ski town, cameras caught a message for him stamped in the snow. Trump, go home. He acknowledged the tough crowd attending his speech.
So many friends, few enemies.
And made clear he wanted to acquire Greenland, but without using the military.
I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
That was a relief for Danish officials who control the island and who had beefed up the security presence on Greenland in recent days. Trump's Arctic focus is widely opposed by Americans, including some here in Davos, like potential future presidential candidate, Kentucky Democratic Governor Andy Beshear.
This is pretty damn stupid. You look at what it means going after territory from another member of NATO. That is crossing a red line. And the American people, we don't think about Greenland for 5 minutes each day.
North Carolina Republican Senator Tom Tillis agrees.
This is drama or a false crisis.
He thinks Trump should use existing agreements with Greenland and NATO to bolster America's military presence on the island.
There's a way to achieve what the president rightfully points out we need to achieve in the Arctic without any of this drama, without any of this discord, and without any of the threat to the long-term stability and reliability of the NATO alliance.
And while Trump now says he has an agreement to sort out a Greenland plan with NATO and European leaders, his speech notably attacked them.
We want strong allies, not seriously weakened ones.
Especially NATO.
I mean, we've helped them for so many years. We've never gotten anything, except we pay for NATO.
But NATO did rally around the U.S. after 9/11, and soldiers from 25 NATO countries fought and died alongside American forces in Afghanistan during the 2-decade conflict. After weeks of threats and confusion over Greenland, the top European Union official says ending trade with the U.S. is now on the table.
And the European Union has the power and the tools to do so.
Ed, we know the president has dropped his tariff threat. The markets like that, but the Europeans had threatened to retaliate. Are they backing down too?
No, not yet. Several top European leaders tonight still expressing skepticism that the president's really going to back off those new tariffs. One German official quoted as saying, "We cannot sit back, relax, and be satisfied." So they're talking about using what they call a bazooka tariff, up to $100 billion in new tariffs against goods and services sold into the United States. All of that would mean higher prices for American customers. Tony?
All right, Ed, thank you.
Did President Trump just cave on Greenland? Well, it sure seems that way. This is happening just a few hours after he gave a defiant speech reiterating that he wants to acquire the territory. Trump now says that he's struck a deal with the Danes to sit down and negotiate over Greenland. And more, we're learning a little bit about what that deal might entail. But first, let's just take a look at what we're talking about here. Trump went from saying that that territory had to belong to the United States for national security reasons, for economic reasons, for global security. He says it has to be America's. Now he's saying we're going to sit down and negotiate. He calls the beginning of negotiations a deal, but it seems that this is just the beginning of talks. We're also learning a little bit about what might be in this deal, and it sounds very much like what already is in the treaty between the United States and Denmark over Greenland. This is from 1951. It's a treaty that basically allows us to operate military installations on Greenland, and we've entered into a mutual defense agreement with the Danes over that territory. So as many foreign policy experts have said, this whole thing about acquiring Greenland doesn't seem to even be necessary, because if the United States wanted to defend Greenland, if we wanted to build more military installations, if we wanted to beef up our presence, we could do it right now. So it remains to be seen what more will come from this. But President Trump sure seems to have been affected by what was happening in the markets, and particularly the bond market, after he threatened tariffs on NATO if they opposed his attempts to acquire Greenland. Now, earlier in his speech at Davos, he ruled out using military force. Hours later, he ruled out tariffs. So it seems very much, again, that President Trump has perhaps made what the markets have been calling a taco trade. He's chickened out on this one, and we'll see what the final terms of the negotiation that he has with the Danes and with Greenland, what that ends up looking like.
First of all, nobody else than Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark have the mandate to make deals or agreements about Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark without us. That's not going to happen. In terms of the deal there's been talking about, I don't know what's concrete in that deal either. But I know that we have now a high-level working group working on a solution for both parties. As I hear it, the will to have Greenland, to own Greenland, was still a part of the rhetoric yesterday. But as I said, respectful dialogue through the right channels is what we have been seeking from the get-go. And I also feel that's the intention now from the other parties, and I'm happy for that.
And it just keeps getting better, y'all. President Trump walked into Davos this week and embarrassed half the Western world without even raising his voice. For weeks, the media screamed panic. Trump wants Greenland. Trump wants tariffs. He wants to destabilize NATO. Trump is reckless. Denmark panicked. France lectured. The EU threatened trade retaliation. Markets dipped. The narrative just locked in. Then Wednesday happened. Trump arrived at the World Economic Forum in Davos and met privately with NATO leadership. Hours later, the panic ended. Trump announced a framework agreement covering Greenland and the entire Arctic region. Tariffs canceled, markets surged, Europe blinked. This was never about buying land. This was about control. Greenland controls Arctic flight paths, missile detection, rare earth minerals, shipping lanes. Trump forced Europe to choose: negotiate or lose leverage. Denmark chose negotiation. The deal secures U.S. access to Arctic minerals, permanent security authority, and missile defense positioning exactly where Russia and China fear most. No war, no tariffs, no chaos, just leverage. This is how power works when someone understands it. Trump escalated pressure, forced talks, and walked out with everything America needed. While previous administrations apologized, Trump negotiated. That is the huge difference, y'all. Make sure you like the video right there. Follow for more. Let me know what you think in the comments. Catch you on the next one.
This morning, after weeks of threatening a hostile takeover of Greenland, a major turnaround from President Trump, dropping his threat to use military force.
We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay, now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force.
And announcing he's now reached a, quote, framework of a deal with the Secretary General of NATO. Trump offered few details, but said it's a forever deal.
It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and minerals.
Instead of buying the island outright, the New York Times reports the U.S. is now discussing obtaining key pockets of sovereignty on Greenland. It would reportedly be a setup similar to what the British have on the island nation of Cyprus. Sovereign bases where the U.S. could control the response to threats from Russia and China without owning the whole country. The U.S. already has a base on Greenland and operated as many as 17 there during World War II. When asked if it means the U.S. will now own Greenland, the president wouldn't say. The Danish foreign minister, relieved by the reduction in tensions, still wants a better deal, saying, quote, now let's sit down and find out how we can address the American security concerns in the Arctic while respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. One of the Greenlandic members of the Danish parliament pushing back against the announcement, saying NATO has no right to negotiate without them. And this morning, President Trump is also dropping his threat to impose new tariffs on European allies who oppose the takeover. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
Donald Trump has caved completely on Greenland. The war is off. So breaking news here, guys. Big surprise. The taco is back. Trump totally flip-flopped. He totally caved. The Europeans refused to budge today in Davos. The stock market took a hit yesterday. Trump flipped out and caved 100%. The best part was he claimed we got a deal and then gets asked about it. He goes, well, we have the concepts of a deal. Literally, he said that. Anybody who knows Donald Trump knows that's the phrase he uses when he has nothing. He claimed this in healthcare. He claimed for eight years he had a plan on healthcare, and they went, "It's been 8 years, Mr. Trump. How do you not know?" He goes, "I have the concepts of a plan." So basically, and this was great. He meets with the NATO Secretary General, who says we've got a deal. NATO Secretary General can't do it. Greenland's an independent country. NATO Secretary General can't reach some deal. Nonetheless, Secretary General issues a statement saying, we're going to have a coalition of countries who will guarantee Greenland's safety. Yeah, like we could call it NATO. Oh, yeah, that's right. Greenland's already a member of NATO. He did nothing.
Well, we shall see. You know, Donald Trump is known for saying one thing and doing another. We shall see. That's all I have to say. Do I 100% trust everything he said? Hell no. Hell no. And Donald Trump, you know, everybody would have the right not to believe anything that Donald Trump says at this point. That's how I see it. Mm-mm-mm. So, y'all, this is my final live for tonight. And I'll be back tomorrow. Antithesis, thank you so much for the super chat. Algia supporting. Thank you so much for your support for my channel. I deeply appreciate it. So, y'all, please enjoy the rest of your night. And I'll be back tomorrow with all new topics. Shalom, family.